And any more myths that we want to discuss, panel, Musu and Fatu Balde?
I think another one is the fact that when you educate, I'm sure, I think someone had talked about it, but it's about when you educate a girl, it's somewhat useless because they're not going to go out to be leaders. And I think that is why, for the most part, they're always patronizing us. They think like they're doing us a favor, and that's why even when girls excel academically, they go into the real world, and you would have this instance where, oh, someone has to be, oh, we have to bring a woman to be the deputy director. It's it's only in rare circumstances where you would see the woman as the absolute leader and then men as assistants. But in our context, I don't know why, but by default, this seems to be the narrative that, oh, you have the men and then you have the woman as the deputy, and that resolves the issue. So when you think about that, for a girl who wants to excel, for a girl who is doing absolutely everything that she can to be the better leader, and coming into the real world, you're somewhat discouraged. And sometimes we would hear these things about people saying, oh, I mandama ray suma bopa si janga bepere mangi ni suma morom yo hamne jangun sa jongun defu dara nyungi ni, they're more successful. So that discourages girls, because if you have done so well, you have excelled, throughout your all levels of education. When a man is in that position, the person would earn more than you, even though you're doing the significant amount of work. And I think that is also a myth that intentionally exists to discourage girls to not take education seriously, to say that what's the point? In any event, you're going to be someone's deputy. You're not going to be good enough to lead an entire institution, but instead you need to have someone who is going to always be the patron and has control over you. So automatically, men were made the custodians of the law. I don't know who gave such custody to them, but as far as power is concerned, they seem to dominate. As far as opportunities are concerned, they seem to dominate. As far as access is concerned, they seem to dominate. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Musu. That's amazing. Thank you so much. We're talking about these myths and we are breaking them. And hopefully the conversation that we start here today would not end here today. It would be something that would be snowballed and reach in other areas in society, and the people that are listening and watching and later on sharing this video, we can, we have contributed in one way or another, inspiring the girls, telling society that things have to change. We do not have to stick to the norms anymore. Girls can do far greater than playing the assistant. Girls can do far greater than always being in the second position. Girls can do far greater than just being cheerleaders. Girls can do far greater than just pigeonholing them and expecting that they should follow that norm that has always been created. It's time we break the barriers. It's time we move on to the next level. It's time that we know that we are the change makers, because women, I always say, and girls, we are pragmatists. When we do something, we do it in a way that is not coming from a theoretical context. We have lived the experience. And so the solutions that we come up with are practical and they can be implemented and we can see change. So that is what we are here for today. And as we move on to the conversation, just to say to the people watching, if you want to call in, you can use that phone number to call in. You can send us a message on the Facebook platform that you're watching on. And we thank you so much that you've joined us in this conversation. We can't thank you enough. Thank you so much. So ladies, we now move on to the next phase.
Before we move on, Annetta,
yes?
I have one more myth. It is believed that when a girl is educated, they're not respectful to the husband, or they're very competitive and challenging. And as such, we have seen successful women who have good careers not getting married because men are intimidated by that. So I just want to say that marriage is not meant to be a a control situation. Marriage is a partnership. You know, when a woman is educated, she is more likely to support her husband. She's more likely to ensure that her own children are educated. She's more likely to contribute to the home economically and in other aspects as well. So it shouldn't be a barrier. Women who are successful, who have successful careers, can be loving women as well. They can take care of their families as well. You know, there's no evidence to support that women who are successful, who have good careers, cannot maintain a relationship. And nothing wrong with success there. It can only be good, you know, for the entire family. So I just wanted to bring that up as well.
Thank you so much, Fatu. Absolutely. We've all had it. Girls that are educated, women that are educated, it's very difficult to control them. This control comes back in. You know, they're very naughty. You know, it's very hard for you. And this divorce rate is now linked to educated women. We're having so much divorce, so much separated family because girls are educated. If they weren't educated, they'll just stay in their husband's house and bear whatever is there for them to take. You know, is either you educate them and they're promiscuous, or you don't educate it and they suffer all the abuse in a marriage and not know how to, you know, go out and look for help and seek help and stand up for themselves. So all these things are things that we have to know that is not real. I always say it, we cannot achieve this gender equality without the men. You know, we cannot. They have to be in there with us. They have to be our partners. So we would like to see more men as well coming out, because, you know, they have sisters, they have daughters, you know, they have moms, they have grandmothers. They should also come out and join us in this conversation, join us in this fight. And, you know, when they join us as well, it just brings it to a whole new level. So we have taken on the challenge, and we are also challenging you, the men, to come and join us. Yeah. Thank you so much. So we now move on. I know we have talked about in different of the different contributions that you ladies have made about why do these myths persist, like Musu has given, is because the other women are perpetuating it. Is Fatu MBE has talked about because we live in a society where it's patriarchal. We've heard from Fatu Baji as well saying, you know, all these things are coming from, is stemming from somewhere, and we know why these things persist. But is there any other reasons why this myth persists beside what we have discussed, or are those just the main ones, or are there other things else that why these myths persist in society?
Yeah, so I want to comment, please, if that's okay. Yeah.
That's fine.
I think we've touched on quite a lot of reasons. I think what is yet to be talked about is the religion, because I think most of these gender roles, we often say society creates gender roles, but sometimes there is a missing point there. We don't talk about where these gender roles are coming from, and often religion plays an important role in defining what a woman should be like, how a woman should behave. And I think all of what we've been talking about here, even the patriarchal societal order, is derived, or can be derived, I should say, from religion. Because when you look at the Bible or the Quran, when they talk about a man should be a protector, you know, sometimes the way we interpret that, society interprets that, is a man is superior. You know, some people even would say it point blank, that a man is superior, a woman is inferior. You know, I am supposed to be controlling you as a woman. So when we have those kind of understanding of religion and interpreted in that way, then we obviously would treat women as inferiors. So we wouldn't see the importance of why a woman should be educated if they are supposed to be controlled by me. If I'm supposed to be feeding, clothing, and housing this woman, why should she go out and earn her own money? But then I think what we should do as a society is to be open-minded and think about these things in a different perspective. Because for me, protecting and restricting are totally different things. You know, what does protecting mean for a man to protect a woman? What does that mean? Does it mean when a man builds a house Or should a man build a house by himself? Why can I not as a woman contribute to the building of that house? Why can I as not as a woman contribute to the fish money sometimes? And often we do. When men, the fish money is never enough in most of the Gambian homes. They give 50, I put 50 and it's 100 and I go and do my shopping. So I think religion and the way we understand it can be a contributing factor. And I think we need to begin to look at religion in a different perspective and then try to understand what the text means, because it might mean something else to you and something else to me. So I was speaking to some men, I think a couple of weeks ago, about this Surah Nisa, in those of you who understand the Quran. And that man was like, that surah says it all, it sums it all. It says that men are in charge of women. I said, but what does that mean to you when it says men are in charge of women? you know that same surah also said women have right over you, just like you have right over them, but nobody talks about that. And I think it's because in the olden days, men were the ones who were educated in religion. There was biasness from the beginning, and then they interpreted in the way that they like. This thing is all about power and control. Who is the most powerful? Who's controlling that power? That's what it is about. So that's why women need to go out and learn about this religion so that we are able to challenge some of these interpretations. So we're not challenging the Quran or the Bible, we're challenging the interpretation. If someone explains it to you this way, that's their own perspective. So what is my perspective as a feminist when I look at Surah Nisa? I think that surah is powerful. It's actually giving me as a woman more right. But it depends on how you see it. And when a man looks at it because they want to control that power, they would explain it to me in a different angle. So I think religion plays an important role. And I don't think any of these main religion, the Quran, Islam or Christianity, supports abuse, supports discrimination. In fact, it encourages education. I think the surah on Ikra, it means learn or study. It's not saying men go and be educated. It's not saying boys go and be educated. It's saying as a human race, we should be educated because education is power. Once you are educated, nobody would come here and fool me. It's very unlikely. Even if it's a subject area that I don't know, I would go and find out. I would just go and find out. It just gives it takes me to a different level. So that's just what I want to bring onto the conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Fatu. That's amazing. Yes, we cannot talk about, women being sidelined, marginalized, and all this without bringing in the religious context as well. Because in both texts that you've just mentioned, when we looked at it, if I'm a Christian, who were Jesus's disciples, they were all men, you know, and when you see it like that, so it's a male dominated thing. But also scriptures have said it again, men love your wives. It doesn't say men dominate your wives, or men control your wives. We have to be kind and do all these things to our families and everything. And in the Bible, the most part that men will take upon is women submit to your husbands, and that submit, they would define it to how it suits their situation and their needs and everything. So all these things plays into it. And another thing that I wanted to bring is, once you've grown up in a culture that is that way, I think as women and girls, we just conform and just follow, toe onto it, and just follow and say, oh, this is how it's always been. And it takes that person, and it takes that generation, it takes that time when women said, oh, that group that's been marginalized, say, no, we are no longer going to take it. And for some reason they only see those that want to make headway as the problem, instead of looking at the root cause to saying, this has always been the problem, these people are not the problem, is what has been there. Well, let's look at the underlying factor, what can we change there, instead of stigmatizing these people and brandishing them as naughty women that do not want to be controlled anymore. So I think that's another way that we can make a headway in looking at the root cause and seeing that is the issue instead of women. So anything else, Musu and Fatu Balde, in why do these myths persist? Why do society continuously hang on to these myths? Why?
I think Fatu very articulately was able to put the point across about issues of religion.
Mm-hmm.
And just to add that the misinterpretation of religious texts,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of Gambians draw inspirations from religion.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, they believe in what the religious leaders tell them.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the fact that women are not highly educated, even in the context of Islam or Christianity,
Mm-hmm.
I take the example of my community, for example, where you would education for girls in the context of Islam, they go to Dara, but up to a certain level. Because what? They have to do chores and other things. So
Mm-hmm.
you would realize that men or the boys will continue going on in terms of learning about their religion, and the girls are left behind. So the belief is that, oh, if they can just read a few surahs and they can just read a few surahs to just perform
Mm-hmm.
prayers, that's it. This is not, of course, completely what happens all the time, but majority of the time girls are left out in terms of learning about their education. And because they're not getting enough knowledge about their religion, we now rely on men mostly to interpret these provisions for us. And like Fatu said, depending on the interpretation that has been given to you, this is what you rely on, and you say, oh, my religion says this, my religion says that. And then when we link or tie these things to social cultural issues like FGM and child marriage, I wrote my master of laws dissertation on child marriage in the Gambia. And then it was amazing when I did so much research, all the religious Islamic texts that I came across that are against child marriage, even though people will tell you, well, the Prophet married his wife at age 9. But then there's also something that is called the principle of no harm in Islam, which is la darar, which tells you that where the harm is greater than the good, then you must refrain from it. But how would women learn about this? How would girls learn about this if they don't have equal opportunity and access to education of all types? And this is why these myths continue to exist, because there isn't an opportunity to learn for yourself, but rather you have to base it on an interpretation that someone gave you, which sometimes in our context, religion and culture are so intertwined that we can't even tell the difference between the two. You would ask something, oh, someone would tell you, oh, this is not good. And you're asking, excuse you, who said so? They can't tell you if it is Islam or Christianity or if it is the culture, because the two have become so intertwined that we can't distinguish between the two. And that for me also is one of the reasons why these myths continue to exist.
Thank you so much, Muso, as well, again, for that. And thank you so much, Fatu Baji. Fatu Balde, would you like to just add something on that? Why, from your own perspective, this myths continue to persist in society? Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I think this all three of you have really touched on a lot of what was on my mind. But just to add on that, at the end of the day, how are men supposed to maintain their power in society? How is society supposed to maintain patriarchy if these myths are not reinforced? If they do not maintain the belief that when you educate a girl, she's gonna grow up, she's gonna be too independent that a man cannot control her. She's gonna be too independent economically. She's going to be able to look after herself, and that is a big fear for men. For women to be that free spirit, free independent people who are able to make decisions, informed choices, informed decisions by themselves. And I think that is one of the biggest fear for our society. But like the caller has said, he made a very good point about development and women empowerment. And women empowerment starts from educating a woman, giving them quality education. Any country that is serious about development will invest in girls' education, in quality education. A government, a country that is interested in seeing their country moving forward development-wise will give women and girls equal opportunity in decision-making positions. But how are women supposed to have equal opportunity in decision-making positions when we are facing all these barriers from childhood before we reach adulthood.
Yeah.
When women are taken out of school at a very tender age and married off, and then you go to apply for a job and they're asking for qualifications that you do not acquire because you are a girl and you were denied your right to quality education. And you see, these are the problems when we I love this conversation because you see why we face all these challenges we are facing as a country. It's because of the things that we deny young girls when they were little. And these are what we are seeing from the root causes. These are the branches. These are the fruits. Now we see a government where we have 3 women in cabinet out of God knows how many. This is why we have 6 or 7 women at National Assembly out of 50 something. This is why issues that affect women, when they are brought at the National Assembly, they are thrown out because we have men making decisions on issues that affect us. This is why we are having a high maternal mortality rate in the country, because we deny our girls and women access to equal education, access to good and quality education. It is the reason why we are seeing we have such a high infant mortality rate. These are all issues that we can reflect and throw back and bring back to the fact that young girls were denied education. The reason why we are being denied quality education is so that we do not reach these potentials. This is why we are put as assistants instead of leading. How many men, since independence, how many men have led this country? How many men have led institutions? What have we seen? What have we seen? Where could we have been? Can we see our neighboring countries? Even Senegal, look at their parliament. How many women are there? They're next door. Most of our culture and traditional and religious beliefs are the same, but they are more open to empowering their girls, to empowering their women. But it's like in the Gambian community, giving women power means that you are dismantling manhood, you are dismantling masculinity. That needs to change if we are serious about developing this country. This country is not going to develop, it's not going anywhere if women continue to be oppressed. If this country continues to oppress and discriminate against women and girls, we will continue the same way we are. And that is why it's so important for us to sit today, instead of just discussing about, why do we have so less women as medical doctors, as engineers. Let's go back to why are the myths that exist are existing. Why are girls not being given those opportunities at a very early age to proceed to become responsible women who are able to take on positions, leadership positions, to contribute to the development of this country?
Thank you so much, Fatu. Thank you so much for that. That's really amazing. Looking into how, we have to pass these barriers. And we've all talked about it. We've all mentioned it, of how, we are always playing the assistant. We are always playing the second role. We are always there calling us as cheerleaders and everything. We now have to move on from that. So thank you so much for that. And as we move on to look into the implication of what it is for girls, for this myth to persist in society, and for girls not being able to move on and, be the people or the women they were created to be. I have to say, I would like to see every Gambian girl, being empowered. Ladies, let's just look at it. Right now, where we are, in our position where we are, we cannot say 100 fact. I'm sure most of us all are in a man's house, as they call it, been married or something like that. But let's just see, the sort of independence that we have. Yeah, we are still playing that role that society has, accorded us since we were born. But let's just see how the education that we have received, how it's made, because for right now, I can just go into my bank account and buy whatever I want. I don't need to take permission from anybody to tell me how I should spend my money. I know how to go and look for a job for myself, go for an interview, do my CV, travel to where I want to go, do so many things, and just have dreams and aspirations and things that I want to achieve without having to ask anyone. I would love to see every Gambian girl standing in that power. And the only way they can stand in that power is by having this education that I was, fortunate to get. So what are these implications that if this myth persists and girls are not educated, what are the implications for girls education? If we can just talk about that briefly. Yeah.
Annetta, you've touched on it already. You've brushed on it a little bit. That you are independent. You can explore the world. You can explore your potentials and all that. And so when a girl is not educated, they won't be able to have that opportunity. They won't be able. Well, they are less likely to be independent. That dependency culture is strengthened. You rely on your husband for everything. I know of women, because I work with refugee and migrant women. I know of women who are in abusive relationships, financial abuse, where a husband would hold the bank account, would open the account for the wife, hold the bank account, and when the wife wants to go and buy a sanitary pad, they would ask the husband to give them money. I cannot imagine myself being in that situation. No one should be in a situation like that. Even if women are not educated, they should be able to go out and do stuff for themselves. Maybe be entrepreneurs, have small businesses and earn their own money. So when a girl is not educated, she is more likely to be dependent. And that dependency culture carries on and on. They are very much likely not to encourage their children to be educated because they don't see the importance of that. But having said that, I was brought up by a woman. My mom was not educated. My grandfather was one of those who believed that girls should not go to school. So all my aunties, majority of them are not educated. But my mom played an important role in making sure that I am educated. She was an entrepreneur. I think it's from my grandmother. She was an entrepreneur, and then that was passed on to my mother. My mother, despite the fact that she never sat in an English class, but she made sure that I was going to school, that I am prepared to go to school, do homework. She had a cordial relationship with the school. My dad was just there paying school fees, but my mom was the one who makes sure that I go to study classes. She goes to my school and get to know the teachers there and make sure that, the opportunity that she did not have, that I have it. And my siblings have it as well, because she knows the importance of it. She tells me that I could have been in a better position if I was educated. So you take your education seriously. So there is no excuse for us as women, even the uneducated one, those who didn't have the opportunity, because some of them do want to have it, but parental support is important. She didn't get that, but she ensured that I do. And today she is she's benefiting from that. So if we want to empower women, as Fatu say, if we want to develop our country, we must invest in our girls. We must invest in them, because then even in abusive relationship, I see when a woman is educated, right, abuse is across board. It doesn't matter whether you are educated or not. But when a woman is educated and is being abused, she is more likely to recognize it in the first place, accept that it is going on, and then find ways of leaving that relationship, because she probably have her own money. She probably would be able to go and find support, know the services that are available, and then she'll be more willing to leave that relationship. So there are so many benefits of a woman, for girls to be educated. I'll allow other speakers to take on from here.
Yeah, thank you. Fatu. Yeah, Fatu Balde.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, for me, as I said earlier, when you invest in educating girls, you transform a whole community, a whole country, and that in itself says a lot. Also, evidence shows that girls who are educated are less likely to marry young, and they are more likely to lead a healthy lifestyle and a very productive life, where they could earn for instance, higher income and participate in decision makings that affect them in the country. And that is again something that not just girls benefit from, but the whole household, the whole community, and the whole country benefits from girls' education. So, like the example that Fatu gave, myself, my mother wasn't educated, but she did her best to ensure that I was educated and I received the right education that I deserve. But in my case, it was the role of my father that made the difference. Because one thing that I've learned about empowering women in the Gambia is that we can empower girls, we can empower women, we should empower them. But in most communities, in most households, you can empower a girl to the highest level, and then the decision of what happened to that girl lies in the hands of a man. If those men, the mindsets are not changed. I have an example of a family that was supporting a girl through her education in the Gambia. She went up to year 12. She did very well in her grade 12. And last week, the family is in the UK, British family. They contacted me that the girl's family has decided that she's marrying her off. And they couldn't understand. They said, we've been spending money supporting this girl, sent her to private school. We thought that was it. How come that's even providing all that for the girl? She's now ended up at grade 12, and the father has decided that that's the end. So it is also very important, yes, to educate everybody within the family about the importance of girls' education. For me, when I wanted to go to university to do my degree, my mom said, oh, I think it's enough. You've got your college qualifications. I think it's important to get married and have children. It's not all about education. Whereas my father, for him, he saw education as a key, to empower me. He would always say, you can be, like at that point, Dr. Isa Tunjai said he was a VP. And my father would always say to me, you can be that woman. And that's the other thing about having role models up there. He would always say, you can be that woman. And he always made me believe that I could be that woman. I never had that conversation with my mother, but I always had that conversation. When I had the opportunity to go to the UK, my father said to me, now we have a university in the Gambia. I am worried that if you go to the UK, we won't be able to afford education. It's better you stay here and go to university. My father wasn't educated either, but his mindset changed. Unfortunately, he passed away. I don't know what changed his mind, but it is also very important for us to work with both gender, both sex, both men and women. Girls' education, girls' empowerment, it should be everybody's business. One group cannot do it alone. We need everybody, collective effort. It should be from the household level, from the community, from the government institution. It should be everybody's business, because if you educate girls, the whole country, the whole nation benefits, and that includes men and boys.
Amazing. Thank you so much. One thing I have to commend your parents for taking you to school, and they have broken the generational, they've made a generational change. From now on, everyone in your family from you will be educated, and your children will be educated. So you see how they've broken the barrier and broken the generational change and given the opportunity. So this is what we want to do. Even though, you might come from families where, parents are not educated, but once that mindset has been changed and we've transcended and removed that barrier, what we are going to achieve from generations to come will just be positivity and change and empowering girls. Kudos to your parents for, doing that. Amazing.